G'day everyone, it's me, Professor Tom Tanuki, PhD. I'm a rare Pokemon expert, and that makes me perfectly qualified to talk about the upcoming 2019 Australian federal election. Political kind of guy like me, you know, social justice warrior platform that I have, all that. You'd think I'd be in my element right now, wouldn't you? All up there stalking the halls of Canberra, trying to find out all the goss, finding out parliamentary intrigue and exposing it, hidden backroom meetings, making predictions, backing parties. Well, nah. Sorry, mate. That's just not me. I'm not some career Twitterati type. I don't dig goss. I'm not a child. You've got me all wrong. No. What I am is a Pokemon hunter. I crave only the hunt, the heat of battle, the moment my Pokeball unleashes, catching them just as they're saying something really profoundly odd. Last year, Victorians went to the polls and we covered the most cooked candidates of the Victorian state election. But this year, all Australians will Pokemon go to the polls. And goodness me, there are some really fucking rare ones this time around. Some mega cooked, fucked up, weird dipshits with bad social media habits and even worse opinions. Fellow hunters, let's get our Pokeballs out, flip open the Pokedex, put our Pokemon Ash Ketchum hats on like we're 15 years old, and put a pair of sunnies on because it makes us look a little more like a creep. Let's catch 'em all! Fraser Anning's Conservative Nationals Party, it's an explicitly ethno-nationalist party, yeah? They call openly for a return to the white Australia policy, don't they? They want to close our borders. They want to deport all the Muslims. They demand a cultural homogeneity. Anning's core staffers are even all studied National Socialists. We know this now. In short, they're a very rigid kind of party. It's their vibe, you know? This is not a flexible, chill, progressive kind of vibe I'm describing here, you know? They're not a modern party. You wouldn't say that, would you? They have a real 1901 vibe about them. So, you really have to ask yourself about candidate number 5, don't you? One Professor Adrian Chock standing in the SA seat of Boothby. Not because he isn't white, don't worry about that. Who can, you know, say that's a problem these days? Certainly not the white supremacists. No, look, the thing that I have a little bit of a question mark hanging over Professor Chock regarding is his fuck robot obsession. Perhaps obsession is wrong. Call it advocacy. He doesn't just fuck robots, does Professor Chock, although he probably definitely does that. No, the professor is a world-leading advocate for fuck robots. He actually calls for further investment in fuck robots. He is Professor Adrian Fuck Robots Chock. You look like you don't believe me, mate. Well, here's a photo of Professor Chock holding a robot smooching device that he invented. Go on, cobber, why don't you pash the plastic tube? Here's a quote from Professor Fuck Robots himself. Wouldn't it be great if someone's partner could survive as a robot? It would not be exactly the same, but if we could program the robot while their partner is alive, then you have a love robot, a companion. The love and companionship will be very important for the elderly population. Let's call this what it is, guys. It's white fucking genocide. I'm telling you. Us proud white men have already been cucked enough by soy and the media and women who don't like rapists. And now this Professor Fuck Robots wants to come in and to dump the precious little reserves of white cum that we have left into bloody dinky-doo Aussie diggerbots. We barely have any cum left. Agenda 21 sort of that. How is this going to save Arthur Calwell's White Australia, huh? Hey, maybe putting your dead lover's consciousness into a fuck robot is actually ultra-conservative now? I don't know. You know, I don't claim to understand these rare Pokemon. I just catch them. Coming in at number 4 is Julie Hoskins, also running for Fraser Anning's Conservative Nationals Party in the seat of Bendigo in Victoria. Here's a photo of Julie dressed up as a yellow piss wizard. She used to be a councillor in Bendigo, and she was, at that time, obsessed with the Bendigo Mosque. No, don't get me wrong. She wasn't obsessed with promoting it, easy mistake to make. No, she was obsessed with saying it's a bad thing. So how did she try to stop it? Well, what would you do? You'd dress up like a yellow piss witch and go to work. Anyway, Piss Gandalf is no longer at the council because she's a declared bankrupt. Now she's running for the Australian Parliament, and that is a problem because she's a declared bankrupt. That's why she had to resign from Bendigo Council, because she's a declared bankrupt.
You have no power here.
Piss
Gandalf.
Here's a fun fact for all you poker fascists out there. If you are declared a bankrupt, it kind of bars you from serving in most Australian parliamentary roles. While it's not illegal for a declared bankrupt to run for election, to stand as a candidate, and the AEC have confirmed that, if she does get elected, as soon as she enters Parliament and the High Court process is done, which won't take long, she would be out on her ass, just like that.
You shall not!
piss
So why is Julie Hoskins even bothering, you have to ask yourself. And my answer to that is, she just is. I must admit, I actually have to admire the sheer tenacity of aiming so high, like a steaming, hot yellow piss Icarus or something, flying ever closer to the piss, only to get covered in it. Good luck, Julie. Candidate number 3 is Scott Morland. Scott is a fundamentalist Christian, and he's got a real bone to pick about all those Islams and their Sharia laws and the creeping rise of the Sharia Islams.
Muslims are not all terrorists. Well done, that man. Here's how you respond to that. Muhammad was a fucking pedophile.
He was heavily involved in the Patriot movement for many years, and that makes him a mystic, rare type Pokemon. Scott Morland is also running for Fraser Anning's Conservative Nationals Party, and Fraser Anning once said that no one associated with Neil Erikson or Blair Cottrell would ever be allowed to stand for his party. So between this and Professor Fuck Robots, there are some pretty big plot holes in the whole Conservative Nationals timeline. Scott once got Danny Naylor from the anti-Islam, anti-multiculturalism Catch the Fire ministries to come along and to baptise his unborn child.
Then the Lord said to me, my son, Donald Trump, is chosen by me.
As baptism is a spiritual regeneration, it requires physical birth as a precondition. You have to put holy water on the baby. But Danny Naylor was able to do it anyway. Is Danny really just magic?
Donald Trump is chosen by me.
Or is there something else at play here? I'm not suggesting anything sinful here. No, never, not me. But you know, I'm sure you could work a miracle or two with a big container of holy water and a water hose and a brave and willing Mrs. Morland. So Scott Morland is seeking a seat in the upper house of Queensland, in the Queensland seat of Oxley. And I've printed up the Oxley electorate's main concerns here, which they'll be apparently taking to the polls this year. They are the rising cost of living, job opportunities, economic sustainability, and how to get holy water up someone's prego duff. Candidate 2 is a huge Pokemon. He is so rare. He's also a candidate from Fraser Anning's Conservative Nationals Party, another one, an ACT Senate candidate. He's called Shane Van Duren. Shane's a fighting type Pokemon and a former Special Forces member. So when Shane retired from a life of war and adventure, he got a dog who he apparently mistreated. Now, on this page, we all love men who mistreat animals, don't we? Heroes, we call them. Anyway, an RSPCA inspector found out about this and he seized Shane's dog. So Shane went to get his dog back, and in the process, he choked the RSPCA inspector. And then the police came along to try and stop him from choking the RSPCA inspector, and Shane bashed the copper. So that's Shane's violent criminal record, which I'll come back to in a sec. Shane and his brother Owen once hired a catamaran in Thailand. They took off the tracking device and then they thrashed it 4,000 k over the open ocean back to Australia. And the AFP were waiting for them at Darwin and they arrested them. And so yeah, so that's Shane's not violent criminal record, because he has a violent one and a not violent one, yeah? So an ex-digger with a history of criminality and violence against man and animal is running for Parliament, and that means he's ineligible to sit, just like Julie Hoskins from before. Remember Piss Gandalf? So why run? Why send the Pokemon to battle in the first place? He can't be a politician because of the things he's done. Even if he wins a seat, there's absolutely no chance that he will. He'll be kicked out by the High Court. And you've got to ask yourself, what would Shane do if the High Court removes him from the seat? Choke the judge? Yes. The answer is yes. Yes, he would. He would do that. We're in the end times now, my friends. Of course a fucking senator would choke a fucking judge. Yes. Bring it on, Satan. Candidate number one is Senator Fraser Anning himself. Senator Fraser, 19 votes Anning. Senator Fraser, final solution Anning. The rarest of rare Pokemon. The most cooked of cooked candidates. So rare, in fact, that if you might chance to catch a glimmer of it in the wild, you don't just simply freeze up with nerves, afraid to disturb it with your Pokeball lest you feel its thundery wrath, but rather you'll shit yourself in both fear and confusion at the same time. That is how I feel when a wild Senator Anning appears. Now you'll have noticed by now that all of these candidates are from Anning's party. This election, candidates have been dropping like flies from Liberal, Labor, One Nation, because there's these dirt teams of goss types digging up their sordid histories, things they said in 2011 and so on. Now that hasn't happened with Anning's party. And the reason for that is because you can't get fired from Anning's party. You don't have to. These people are so post-truth that they make Donald Trump look like Jon Snow. If you point out they did something, they can simply say no, or nothing at all. If you point out that they've made a mistake, they can simply ignore it, or call you a liar or a globalist for telling them about it. This is kind of the unfortunate end product of a culture with dirt teams in politics. The rubber band effect creates this absolute filth. Let's roll open the Pokedex. Bit of history here. He replaced One Nation Senator Malcolm Roberts. Just beforehand, Anning was so close to declaring bankruptcy, which, remember, would have rendered him ineligible to sit for Parliament, we know that now, but he did some quiet deal with the banks. And then he replaced Roberts, and he immediately dogged Pauline, and he switched over to Bob Katter's Australia Party. His maiden speech was neo-Nazi, explicitly so, I think, in its phrasing and ideology.
I believe that the reason for ending all further Muslim immigration are both compelling and self-evident.
And then Anning and his band of veteran Nazi staffers that he'd hired on, and that's what they all are, went on to found their own Fraser Anning's Conservative Nationalist Party. Personally, I reckon that Anning did some kind of a deal with the devil, a Faustian pact as it were, with all these neo-Nazi staffers of his, in order to protect his comfortable senator salary and to stave off the banks knocking at his door. They knew that provocative, shit-stirring statements in a public platform like the federal parliament would be the only way to ensure that he could keep his job. There's a real chance that unless Anning is properly scrutinised, he may very well be in the Senate for another 6 years. But if you've been following my videos, you'll know that I've been spending a long time referring to Anning as an Aussie farmer addicted to tramadol.
It wasn't an inflammatory comment. It's the thought police who believe that it's an inflammatory comment.
Now, I admit that isn't necessarily strictly true. He certainly sounds like an Aussie farmer addicted to tramadol. Don't you agree? It might not be true as such, but it feels like it's true. And that, I believe, is instructional for us. It helps us to consider why such a fundamentally fucking boring and charmless man like Anning has still managed to take up so much airtime. If he's a circus, and fucking oath he is, then he's a very, very boring one, isn't he? The tramadol king's only power is in the absolute woozy rejection of the truth. It's beguiling to idiots and dangerous to us. It's evident in the fact that most of his candidates can't even run for parliament. Oh, just run them anyway, it doesn't matter, so what happens? Anning is not an exciting man. He is the tramadol king, a sleep-type Pokemon. We must resist his call to send us all to sleep. We must stand up, rub our eyes, and catch him together. That's our most cooked candidates for this year. Let's catch them all, guys. Let's put them in a shipping container full of coal, and let's export them all to China, our largest trading partner. Anning would love that. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel and share it around with all your Canberra career Twitterati, parliamentary gossip. Ooh, I've got all the inside dirt, mates. They'll fucking love it, mate. Most excitement they've had all year, mate.